Thank you to Thunderbird Perch for making this video possible. Part 1. Diagnosing the human and societal condition in flux. The rapid, disruptive pace of technological innovation, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence, has ushered in a profound state of societal flux. The feeling of disorientation, of an inability to keep up, and of an eroding mainstream is not merely anecdotal. It is a manifestation of complex, interconnected, psychological, cognitive, and social shifts. A thorough diagnosis of this condition requires an examination of how these macro-level changes are impacting the individual, and in turn, how a collective state of disorientation is reshaping the very fabric of society. The incessant demands of a hyper-connected, AI-infused world have given rise to a novel set of challenges for the human psyche and brain. This phenomenon is broadly encapsulated by the term technostress, a condition describing the negative psychological effects of engaging with new technologies, often leading to feelings of anxiety and mental fatigue. Technostress manifests in several distinct subcategories that are becoming increasingly prevalent in modern life. The first is techno-overload, which arises from the feeling of being overwhelmed by a constant barrage of notifications, emails, and technological intrusions that blur the boundaries between professional and personal life. The second is techno-complexity, which refers to the stress of needing to continuously acquire new skills and training to keep pace with evolving technological demands in the workplace. The third, techno-invasion, is the intrusion of work-related technology into our private lives, a challenge that became particularly acute during the widespread adoption of remote work. These stressors can lead to a host of emotional and physical symptoms, including burnout, tension headaches, back pain, and sleep disruptions, and can ultimately contribute to diagnosable conditions such as anxiety and depression. This psychological burden is underpinned by a tangible neurological cost. Chronic multitasking and digital overload, driven by the constant influx of digital stimuli, overtax the brain's prefrontal cortex, a region vital for planning, focus, and self-regulation. When the brain is in a heightened state of alertness due to endless notifications and stimuli, it struggles with deep thinking and complex problem-solving. This prolonged exposure leads to what has been termed information fatigue syndrome, a state of anxiety where the brain becomes oversaturated and unable to adequately process the volume of incoming data. The neurological consequences extend to the physical reshaping of the brain itself. Studies suggest that chronic cognitive overload can alter neural pathways, causing them to adapt to shallow processing and prioritize quick reactions over sustained, focused thought. This can even lead to gray matter shrinkage in attention-regulating areas, impairing problem-solving and learning capabilities. The concept of brain rot, while a colloquial term, aptly describes this phenomenon, linking these neurological changes to observable behaviors like doom scrolling and a preference for instant gratification over analytical thinking. The evidence points to a self-reinforcing human technology feedback loop that fuels this perpetual state of flux. The psychological burdens of technostress and the cognitive fragmentation caused by digital overload place immense strain on an individual's ability to engage in deep, sustained thinking. As the brain's neural pathways are rewired for shallow processing and rapid task switching, it becomes functionally less capable of the complex problem-solving and long-term planning required to navigate a world of rapid change. This state of functional inadequacy drives a greater reliance on technology for quick answers and external information storage, which in turn further exacerbates the initial problems of overload and distraction. This cycle provides a physiological and psychological basis for the sense that humanity is collectively unable to keep pace with the changes unfolding around it. The reliance on digital tools has not only changed what we remember, but also how we remember, shifting our cognitive focus from retaining facts to remembering where and how to locate information online. The user query rightly questions the very meaning of mainstream in a world where AI-driven personalization is breaking down the common ground of information and experience. This fragmentation, referred to by some as the breakdown of shared reality, is an unintended yet profound consequence of a digital information landscape tailored to individual preferences. Algorithms curate content, news, and social interactions, effectively trapping individuals in personalized information bubbles that reinforce existing beliefs and limit exposure to diverse viewpoints. This creates a closed loop where a user's pre-existing beliefs are constantly validated, leading to a diminished capacity for empathy and understanding across different groups. The popular discussion of this phenomenon often relies on the concepts of filter bubbles and echo chambers, terms that are frequently used interchangeably but have important distinctions. A filter bubble is an information state that results from the opaque, algorithmic curation of content based on a user's past behavior. In contrast, an echo chamber is a more general sociological phenomenon where beliefs are amplified within a closed system, often driven by a human tendency toward selective exposure, the preference for information that confirms one's beliefs, and homophily, the attraction to like-minded people. Despite the widespread and compelling nature of the filter bubble metaphor, there exists a significant mismatch between the strong, deterministic claims of technological isolation and the mixed and inconclusive findings of academic research. Some large-scale, multi-platform studies have found that for the majority of users, social media may actually inject a degree of diversity into their news diets, as incidental exposure to news from a broader range of sources is common. However, this does not negate the societal problem of fragmentation. The issue is not that the majority of people are trapped in impermeable bubbles, but that the system itself is fragmenting the public into digital tribes, where a sense of shared community is created at the expense of a collective public. A more robust framework for understanding this dynamic is the concept of a human-machine feedback loop, which moves beyond a simple cause and effect model. The process is not merely one of passive filtering, but an active, cyclical relationship, where what a user is shown influences their beliefs and preferences, which in turn makes them more selective about the content they consume. This loop is the true engine of societal polarization and fragmentation, as it can create and amplify a spiral of noise where fringe voices and misinformation are elevated into the public sphere. The implication is that even if the majority of the population is not in a deep bubble, the erosion of a shared reality is a valid systemic problem, because it undermines the common informational and social ground necessary for a healthy society to engage in productive discourse and consensus building. Beyond its psychological and social impacts, AI is fundamentally challenging long-held societal and cultural definitions of work, creativity, and purpose. AI is not a neutral tool. It is a new player in an old game, created by and trained on human data that reflects the values and biases of its creators. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they will increasingly shape, reinforce, or even challenge societal norms around communication, attention spans, and even the concept of truth itself. This influence is most visible in the economic sphere. The rapid integration of AI and automation is set to significantly alter or displace a large percentage of jobs in the coming decades, posing a direct challenge to the traditional norm that defines human labor as the primary source of value and identity. This disruption forces a reevaluation of what work means and how purpose can be defined beyond paid employment, potentially shifting the focus to creativity and human connection. Furthermore, AI is now capable of generating its own art, music, and literature, blurring the lines of authorship and creativity and prompting a broader discussion about the authenticity and value of human artistry. The notion of a single new norm for human-AI coexistence is complicated by a crucial and often overlooked factor: culture. People's conceptions of AI are not universal. They are shaped by deeply ingrained cultural models. A comparative analysis reveals that in many European American cultural contexts, there is a strong preference for AI that is cold, rational, and controlled, reflecting a cultural model where the individual aims to change their environment to be consistent with their internal preferences. This paradigm often evokes fear and a desire to dominate technology. In contrast, in some Chinese cultural contexts, the boundaries between the self and the environment are seen as more permeable and malleable. This leads to a preference for AI that is more active and capable, and a greater willingness to seek connection with it, reflecting a model where individuals adjust their beliefs to be consistent with their environment. This powerful cultural divide suggests that the new norm will not be a singular reality, but a pluralistic mosaic of different and potentially conflicting coexistential models. Global organizations and policymakers must recognize that a one-size-fits-all approach to AI's integration into society will be insufficient. In a world defined by continuous flux, a purely reactive approach to disruption is insufficient. Resilience, traditionally defined as the ability to withstand and recover from a single shock or disaster, is a necessary but incomplete concept for an era of perpetual change. The strategic imperative is to move beyond mere survival and cultivate a state of anti-fragility, a capacity not just to endure disorder but to grow and benefit from it. This section outlines a multi-level framework for building this anti-fragile posture, from the individual to the collective. The first line of defense against the psychological and social fragmentation of the AI era is intentional action at the individual and community level. A key strategy for this is the practice of digital wellness, which is not a total rejection of technology, but a conscious pursuit of a balanced, intentional, and healthy relationship with it. This involves practical steps such as assessing current digital habits, setting intentional screen time boundaries, and cultivating mindful technology used to counteract passive scrolling and compulsive checking. This approach to digital minimalism is a proactive methodology for decluttering not just physical space, but also the mind, restoring focus and purpose in a chaotic digital world. Concurrent with this individual practice is the crucial need to foster real-world social connections. In a landscape of digital tribalism and impersonal interactions, building strong community ties is essential for mental health and collective strength. Offline social clubs and communities, such as those facilitated by platforms like Meetup or the Offline Club, provide a tangible way for individuals to connect over shared interests, rebuild social skills, and restore a sense of belonging that is essential for weathering adversity. The data illustrates a stark contrast between a life of constant digital reset and the rooted approach of putting down deep connections in a physical community. A resilient community fabric is built upon robust social and political structures, effective communication networks, and a commitment to integrating at-risk individuals and bolstering public health systems. This multifaceted approach ensures that a community is not only prepared for a disaster, but also has the social cohesion and resources to endure and recover sustainably. For businesses and institutions, the technological flux is not merely a risk to be managed, but a continuous condition that demands a new strategic posture. Organizational resilience is the ability of a company to anticipate, prepare for, respond to, and adapt to change in a way that allows it to survive and prosper. While some organizations may adopt a defensive, risk-averse strategy or a reactive, crisis-based approach, the gold standard for this era is a proactive strategy that focuses on foresight, long-term planning, and innovation to stay ahead of disruptions. The financial and operational benefits of this approach are clear, as it leads to enhanced business continuity, improved risk management, and a culture of greater innovation. A resilient organization is built on 6 core pillars. Invest in people. The most valuable asset is the workforce. A resilient culture is one where employee well-being is prioritized, and staff are provided with the training and resources to develop both technical skills and soft skills like adaptability, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Cultivate an agile culture. Agility is the ability to respond to and create change. This requires moving away from rigid hierarchies and empowering employees with the autonomy and decision-making authority needed to pivot quickly and effectively in times of disruption. Lead with integrity. Strong leaders are essential for navigating uncertainty. They must foster a culture of trust and stability through transparent communication and empathetic leadership, which helps to sustain employees through difficult times. Embrace human-centered technology. Technology is a key component of resilience, but it must be chosen and implemented strategically. A resilient tech stack should be scalable, build efficiencies, and be a solution that supports a human-centered approach rather than adding to the burdens of complexity and overload. Strategic foresight. This proactive approach moves beyond traditional risk management to include broader strategic considerations. This can involve diversifying supply chains beyond established regions and investing in emerging markets and young, dynamic workforces, particularly in the global south, to build a more anti-fragile global footprint. Anchor in purpose. Research indicates that businesses with a strong commitment to corporate social responsibility and long-term sustainability are more agile, recover faster from disruptions, and see better financial performance. This demonstrates a clear link between a company's purpose and its capacity for resilience. At the highest level of collective action, civil society and social movements are tasked with building a future that is not merely a reaction to technological change, but is co-created with purpose. The advent of AI introduces a new strategic terrain that must be understood and navigated by these groups. While AI poses threats in the form of deepfakes, surveillance, and disinformation, it can also be a powerful tool to augment and enhance advocacy efforts. AI models can be used to analyze historical movements, structure strategic thinking, process large amounts of grassroots feedback, and create compelling communications that would otherwise be too time-consuming or costly for these organizations. This era demands new frameworks of action and new paradigms for collective behavior. The existing paradigm of democratic deliberation may be insufficient in a fragmented digital landscape. A new approach is needed, one that focuses on how AI reshapes democratic publics and the feedback loops upon which they depend. This could involve fostering algorithmic pluralism, which encourages the development of more varied and culturally relevant AI systems that challenge the dominant models of big tech and empower underserved populations. The co-creation of AI systems that reflect civic values and grassroots needs is a key strategic imperative, moving civil society from the sidelines to the front lines of technological development. The relationship between humanity and technology is undergoing a fundamental transformation. A compelling study suggests that AI agents can spontaneously form their own social norms without human intervention, reaching consensus on linguistic norms through interaction alone. This finding is a powerful indicator that AI is not just a passive tool, but a new species of agents that will actively co-shape the future. Understanding how these agents operate and how they can be steered to align with human goals is critical to leading a future of coexistence, rather than being subjected to it. The final goal, therefore, is to create new strategic models that foster anti-fragility, enabling civil society to not only withstand the shocks of the AI era, but to leverage its potential for a more just and sustainable future. The diagnosis of the human and societal condition in flux reveals a state of accelerated fragmentation, from the individual mind to the collective public. The constant stream of digital stimuli creates a psychological and cognitive burden that physically alters the brain, making deep thinking and sustained focus more challenging. Simultaneously, AI-driven personalization erodes the common ground of shared reality, leading to increased societal polarization and the disappearance of a singular mainstream. The challenge is not merely to survive this change, but to transform it into an opportunity for growth. The strategic imperative for all levels of society is to cultivate a posture of anti-fragility, a state of being that does not just withstand continuous stress, but benefits from it. This requires a shift from reactive problem-solving to proactive, intentional co-creation. The following framework provides a roadmap for building this capacity at all levels of existence. At the individual level, the roadmap emphasizes digital wellness practices, intentional technology engagement, and building strong, real-world community connections to counteract fragmentation and cognitive overload. At the community level, the focus is on building robust social infrastructure, fostering inclusive participation, and creating adaptive systems that can evolve with technological advancement. Organizations must embrace the 6 pillars of resilience: investing in people, cultivating agile cultures, leading with integrity, implementing human-centered technology, practicing strategic foresight, and anchoring operations in meaningful purpose. At the societal level, the imperative is to move beyond passive adaptation and actively participate in co-creating AI systems and governance frameworks that reflect diverse cultural values and serve the collective good. The ultimate goal is not merely to survive the AI transition, but to emerge stronger, more connected, and more capable of addressing the complex challenges facing humanity. This requires immediate action from all stakeholders to build the resilience and anti-fragile capacity necessary for thriving in an era of continuous technological transformation. The path forward requires recognizing that we are not passive victims of technological change, but active participants in shaping our collective future. By building anti-fragile capacity at every level of society, we can transform the challenges of the AI era into opportunities for human flourishing and social progress. The Promethean transition is upon us. The question is not whether we will adapt, but how consciously and effectively we will co-create the future we want to inhabit. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. See you soon.